be at a point where they'll board the bus and conduct a safety check ride and really observe the bus drivers driving. Are they driving safely? Are they following all of our safety protocols? And do a brief visual inspection of the bus as well. And so that will happen on a regular, periodic, but likely unannounced basis.
Will this be random, or will you guys go off of if you hear complaints?
We will have a schedule that will include every bus route for at least every 18 to 24 months, probably as we get into it more frequently than that. But then we will also absolutely target particular buses or bus routes or bus drivers based on any complaints that we get or any feedback that we get or any concerns that are raised. Yes?
As far as the cameras that are going to be put on the buses, you mentioned some grant funding for that. Can you talk about more where that money's coming from?
Yeah, we're actually in the throes of identifying those dollars right now. We have some potential funding sources that we're in the process of having conversations with the state of Tennessee about using those dollars for that purpose. We think that will happen, and but we haven't finalized that yet.
And are all of these changes something we're expecting to see this fall, or that we will see this fall?
These are all of the things that I announced this morning are commitments that we are making. These are strategies that Knox County Schools, in partnership with Knoxville Police Department and in partnership with the Knox County Sheriff's Office, we are committed to making happen this fall.
Dr. McIntyre, I've been told that there's, in relation to the driver that was struck in the accident last December, I've been told that there was at least 29 other drivers that had similar licensing or credentialing issues. As I understand it, Knox County Transportation Department makes these drivers, put these drivers on eligibility list. So is there going to be an examination of the Transportation Department and in particular the person that puts these drivers on eligibility list?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, one of the things that we are going to do this fall is put it on our RFP to really do a comprehensive, detailed organizational, operational review of our transportation program. And that will include all of our protocols, all of our practices, everything that we do to ensure that we've got it right, to make sure and make improvements where we can. I mean, I think there are always areas where we can do better and where we can tighten things up. And we believe that such a review will be very beneficial to our school system. I think it will be beneficial to our contractors. I think it will be beneficial to their drivers, and ultimately, I think it will be beneficial for our kids and their families in terms of having an efficient and effective transportation program as possible, and having a transportation program that's as safe as possible as well.
One particular media entity keeps referring to the texting of the driver that caused the accident as having been texting with a prostitute, and even as recently this morning is saying he was texting with a convicted prostitute. Is there any appropriate texting by a driver while transporting children on a school bus?
No, there is not.
Thank you.
There's been a lot of complaints about the driver responsible for the crash in regard to safety, both from parents and even principals. Will those be taken seriously now that you guys have gone through this process?
All complaints, all concerns that are raised around our transportation program have been and will continue to be taken seriously. That kind of feedback is important to us. We follow up on those concerns, and of course, that's something that we will look very carefully at. What that process looks like, how is that communication happen with the contractors, and of course, we always look for opportunities to do that work better. We'll always look for ways to improve, but we take those complaints and those concerns very seriously, and we'll make sure that protocol continues to be an extremely high priority for us, and making sure that feedback is appropriately communicated and that there's appropriate consequences. I think a lot of what you hear this morning about the commitments that we're making and the strategies that we are putting in place, the additional strategies that we're putting in place, are really about enhancing oversight, about enhancing the scrutiny that we bring to our contractors and making sure that they're meeting the expectations that we have in place. And I think that we are committed to ensuring from top to bottom, from beginning to end, that all aspects of our transportation program are working effectively, efficiently, and that we have a safe and efficient transportation program for our school students. Our goal is to make sure we get our kids to and from school safely and on time, and we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that that happens.
the additional hours of training the drivers are now going to have to take, is that something the contractors are going to be responsible when paying for those hours? Or is it something the school district is paying for the drivers to come in and gain those additional hours?
Yeah, again, we're working out some of those details, but we anticipate that we will probably provide some additional resources to ensure that we can make those additional hours mandatory for the bus drivers who work for our contractors. Obviously, we want to make sure that that is a requirement and that it is mandatory, and so we're looking again to see if we can identify resources to make sure that we can provide some additional dollars to the contractors so they can pay the bus drivers to be there.
I'm a simple guy, so are you just looking at moving some money around so
Yes.
that we can do, okay. Thank
You got it.
And do we have money for that? Is that in the budget right now?
We'd have to make some cuts somewhere else, but again, this is a priority for us. This is obviously incredibly important to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to ensure the safety of our children in our transportation program, so we'll do what it takes to make that happen.
When do you think we'll have that plan in place and ready for review?
We anticipate that training will happen this fall. So
By fall, September, October?
we've got an in-service day in October, late September, and we anticipate that will be when we put that training in place.
What kind of response have you gotten from bus contractors and bus drivers as you guys announce these changes that you're putting in place?
Well, I believe that our bus contractors share our interest and our priority in making sure that we have a safe and effective transportation program for our kids. So I think, generally speaking, they're going to do what it takes to work with us to make that happen. And so I don't anticipate any significant pushback. I don't anticipate any significant concerns, because I think these things, these strategies that we've announced this morning, all make sense for us to enhance the safety of our transportation program and the safety of our kids. And for me, that's what it's all about. And I spoke with our bus contractors a few days ago, and was very clear about our expectations that it was absolutely zero tolerance for any texting while driving a school bus, as it should be, and that we are going to ensure that we hold our bus contractors and the drivers that they employ accountable for meeting our high standards and our expectations for a safe and effective transportation program in the Knox County schools.
When you're talking about the third-party review system, who will that be and how often will they review?
Well, we're talking about a one-time comprehensive detailed review sometime this fall. And really, I mean, again, looking at all aspects of our transportation program, operationally, organizationally, and really taking a look from start to bottom, from top to bottom of what our transportation program looks like. Are there places where we can make improvements? Are there places where we can make enhancements?
So a lot of people say, why don't they take school transportation under their wing at the school instead of having contractors? What do you say to them? We have a transportation department that oversees our contractors and oversees the provision of transportation in the Knox County schools, but we do rely on contractors to provide that service. We've done that for a very long time, and I think generally speaking, that has been a model that has been beneficial to our school system and our community. We've relied on sort of small business owners in the Knoxville area to provide transportation services. But I think, we've also raised the stakes over the last decade or so, and raised the standards and raised the stakes around what this looks like in terms of accountability, what it looks like in terms of meeting all of our safety protocols and expectations. And so, I think it can be a challenging job to be a bus contractor some days, but that isn't going to stop us from having high standards and rigorous accountability. But I think also, when we do this review, when we think about bringing in a third-party independent expert to help us take a hard look at everything we do in transportation, that's all options are on the table. All questions are to be answered. And if there is a perspective that we should be looking at other models, we're open to doing that. Are you going to review those videos often to see if they're texting and driving?
We are going to, it allows us to have the information and certainly to verify or to dismiss any concerns or complaints that come in to say, yes, that did happen, or no, that didn't happen. I think it's really good information for us to have. We've done, I think, a pretty comprehensive job of putting video monitoring systems in our schools, and it's been a very valuable tool. And I think that's really what it is. It's another tool for us to be able to help enhance and ensure the safety of our kids in our transportation program.
And will that be on every bus?
That is our goal and our commitment, is to have it on every bus. That will take a little while. That will take some time, but we're going to start this fall, and we're looking to identify the resources, and we believe we'll be able to do that and start installation this fall.
Question about the buildings themselves, moving away from the buses for a second.
Yeah.
I believe it was said that you guys have security officers in every school in the district?
We have an armed uniformed officer in every school in the school system. That may be a school security officer, that may be a police officer, that may be a Knox County Sheriff's Office deputy. But every school, and it may be some combination thereof. In many schools we have multiple uniformed officers, but we have an armed uniformed officer in every school, and we will continue to have an armed uniformed officer in every school. And it just depends on the school and the deployment that we work with the KPD and the Sheriff's Office on, as to what that looks like in various schools.
The Knox County security officer belongs that is employed by the district. Is there one of those in every single building?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Our commitment is to have an armed uniformed officer in every school, and that's in partnership with the Sheriff's Office and in partnership with the KPD. And we have had that, and we will continue to have that every day. But it may be, again, it may be one or the other, or some combination of the three that are deployed to that particular school.
So is the difference between having an officer with the school and an officer from the PD just payroll? It's just kind of a blending?
Well, Chief might have something to say about that. There are some differences in terms of certainly who they report to, and KPD officers obviously report to the chief, and deputies report to the sheriff, and school security officers report to the chief of police and myself. There are also some differences in terms of their capabilities and their responsibilities. Deputies and KPD officers are sworn law enforcement officers. Our security officers are bonded by the Sheriff's Office, but they are also employees of Knox County Schools, and that actually just gives them a little bit of a different role and slightly different responsibility. But they all work together in partnership to keep our kids safe. And we think very purposefully about what that deployment looks like, and where do we want to have a deputy, where do we want to have a KPD officer, where do we want to have a school security officer, where do we want to have more than one of those, and we work in close partnership with KPD and the Sheriff's Office in that regard. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I just reiterate what you said. That is, while certainly there's differences in terms of their uniform, their responsibilities are very similar, and so and of course who they report to is different. But we do have agreements and understandings of what the role is for each of those that are in the schools, and so it's a seamless operation, quite frankly. You wouldn't know the difference if you're just walking in and trying, because they're all doing very similar things. And so the only difference is the certification. That's it. And outside of that, everything else they do is similar.
Chief, only your officers and Sheriff Jones, Chief Biggs' officers have arresting powers, correct?
Well, I'm not sure. No, yeah, they're bonded. So the school security division is actually bonded through the Sheriff's Office.
So they have arresting.
So
they have arresting powers
on campus.
Okay.
And are they armed?
They are armed. They've been trained, so they've received the proper training. The same training our officers get, they've received. And so that both the Sheriff's Office and the police department have provided that training to them.
I think we had heard that there was a shortage of security guards with the school system, and there might not be some in the high schools in Knox County. Is that untrue?
Yeah, now there will be. Now there may not be a school division security officer there, but there will be a Sheriff's Office or a police department officer there. So that deployment will be. Again, we've worked very closely with Chief Paducas and the deployment, and making sure that we have the resources where they need to be. Every school, as Dr. McIntyre mentioned, every school will have an armed officer at the school. So who that officer works for may be different, but the role is going to be the same.